What we just saw this morning in Indian Wells is beyond words. Because Alexandra Eala, the girl from the Philippines, who has been promising for years, who has been the great hope of Asian tennis for years, has just taken a huge step forward. A great three-set match, full of tension, comebacks, nerves, and pure class. Today on this channel, we bring you the complete analysis of Alex Eala's victory over Dayana Yastremska at the 2026 WTA 1000 in Indian Wells. Stay tuned until the end, because there are statistics that will surprise you, key moments you may not have seen, and a conclusion that will give you goosebumps. But before we get into the match, let's provide some context, because if you don't know Alex Eala, now is the time to start following her. Alexandra Eala is 20 years old. She is Filipino, and she is possibly the most exciting player Southeast Asia has ever produced in the history of women's tennis. She arrived at Indian Wells 2026 as the 31st seed, which already tells us a lot. She's no surprise. She's no wild card. She's a ranked, recognized player who is already highly regarded on the WTA circuit. She trained at Rafael Nadal's academy. She has won junior titles. She has climbed the rankings with a consistency that many more experienced players would like to have. And today, at Stadium 3 in Indian Wells, in front of thousands of spectators and with the tennis world watching, she took another step forward. A big step. Against whom? Against Dayana Yastremska. And beware, because beating Yastremska is no easy feat. Dayana Yastremska, from Ukraine, is one of those players who, when she's on fire, can make life difficult for anyone. She has a powerful serve, aggressive baseline play, and a competitive mindset that has earned her victories against top 10 players on more than one occasion. She has been on the WTA Tour for several seasons and knows exactly how to manage big matches. She is not an opponent who gives anything away. That makes Eala's victory even more impressive, because this was no walk in the park. It was a battle. Let's move on to the first set. And the story begins with a clear message from Eala. I'm here to win. The set was not smooth sailing. Yastremska pushed hard from the start, with that powerful serve I mentioned earlier. But Eala was patient. She weathered the moments of pressure. And when the opportunities came, she took advantage of them. The final score of the set was 7-5. But what matters is not just the result, but how she got there. Eala converted break points at just the right moments. When the match could have been tied, she stepped up. Here's a statistic that I'll share with you now and then expand on later. Throughout the match, Eala had 14 break points and converted 7. That's 50% effectiveness. That's devastating. That's what makes the difference between winning and losing. First set for Eala, 7-5. The stadium begins to realize that this could be something special. But Yastremska is not one to give up. And the second set was her response. The Ukrainian adjusted her game. She started to get better first serves in, reduced her unforced errors, and began to put more pressure on Eala from the back of the court. The second set went to Yastremska, 6-4. And with that result, the match was tied at 1 set apiece. Everything to play for. It must be said that in this set, we began to see what would be Yastremska's Achilles heel throughout the match. Double faults. Throughout the match, the Ukrainian racked up 15 double faults. 15. That's a staggering number. And in the most tense moments, that problem worsened. But in the second set, Yastremska managed her nerves better. Eala paid the price, failing to find her best tennis in this set. A third set was inevitable. The outcome was yet to be decided. And so we come to the third set, the decisive set, the one that tennis fans watch with their hearts in their mouths. 7-5 to Eala. But the score doesn't even begin to reflect what happened out there. Because at some point in the third set, Alexandra Eala racked up a streak of 8 consecutive points. 8 consecutive. At the most important moment of the match. That's mental tennis. That's keeping a cool head when everything is at stake. That's what separates good players from those who are going to be great. Yastremska tried everything. She stepped up her game to its most aggressive point. She went for the ace, She went for the winner. And she hit the net or the sideline more times than she would have liked. Many of those 15 double faults I mentioned earlier came in this set, at moments when she needed the point. And Eala, far from getting nervous, kept doing her thing, solid, smart, converting when she needed to. The decisive break came with the match very even. Eala found an opening. Yastremska went long on the most important shot, and the match was over. 7-5. Victory. The stadium rose to its feet, and somewhere in the Philippines, an entire country began to celebrate. Okay, let's move on to the analytical section, which I love and which I think explains why Eala won. The numbers don't lie. Total points. Eala won 113 points, Yastremska 109. It was very close. That explains why it went to 3 sets. Break points. Here's the key. Eala had 14 break opportunities and converted 7. Yastremska had 7 and converted 6. Eala was much more effective when she had chances. And on top of that, she generated twice as many opportunities. That's no coincidence. It's constant pressure on the opponent's serve. Double faults. 15 for Yastremska compared to only 4 for Eala. In such a close match, that difference of 11 points given away is huge. Those are entire games that Yastremska handed over without Eala having to do anything. Aces, Yastremska won here with 8-2. The Ukrainian has a more powerful serve, that's clear. But aces are useless if you then make 15 double faults. First serve. Both players had around 72 to 73% effectiveness. Very evenly matched. The difference was in what they did with those points. Statistical conclusion. Eala was more consistent, more effective at key moments, and mentally stronger when the match got tight. Now let's talk about what all this means. Because beyond the score, this victory has special significance. Now let's talk about what all this means. Because beyond the scoreboard, this victory carries special significance. Eala is not just a good tennis player. She is a symbol. She is the first Filipino woman to reach these levels in professional women's tennis. Each of her victories makes headlines across Southeast Asia. Each step up in the rankings is an inspiration to thousands of girls who dream of playing tennis. In a sport that has historically had very little Asian representation at the highest levels, Eala is breaking barriers, and she is doing so with quality, hard work, and a competitive maturity that rivals even the most veteran players on the circuit. This match at Indian Wells, in the WTA 1000, the second most important tournament after the Grand Slams, against a tough player like Yastremska in 3 sets, is a match to remember. And the best part is that Eala is only 20 years old. She has her whole career ahead of her. So there you have it. Eala 7-5, 4-6, 7-5 against Yastremska. An epic victory in 3 sets, with a streak of 8 points at the most important moment, and statistics that show a player who is no longer a promising talent, but a reality in world tennis. Eala is still alive at Indian Wells 2026, and we'll be here to tell you everything that happens. Do you think Eala can go far in this tournament? Let me know in the comments. If you liked this video, give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and share it with that friend who loves tennis. They deserve it. See you next time. See you soon.